Rigby's Roads, Chapter 2, The Line on the Table. The garage door closed behind him as Jack sat in the car, staring ahead. The ride home was uneventful. The rainstorm had diminished the traffic, no one was outside, and it all seemed too perfect. Ouch! He felt the biker's gun jammed into the back of his head again, but he remained calm. Something had changed in him. Something deep inside had clicked into a new gear. Suicide was no longer on the radar screen. It was now an adventure, excitement, danger. It was thrilling. The biker had regained consciousness, but still looked groggy. "Where the fuck are we?" he demanded to know, pushing the gun harder into the back of Jack's head. Jack calmly replied, "In my garage. Don't worry, you'll be safe here. I covered up any evidence." Plop. The biker collapsed into the back seat. "Damn, now I have to drag him into the house," Jack moaned. It took 15 grueling minutes to drag him inside. Jack closed the curtains before turning on any lights. He took out an old blanket, spread it out on the floor, and rolled the guy onto it. He pulled the blanket across the wood floor as he dragged him from the kitchen to the living room. The guy was a mess, covered in dirt, had a bloody leg, and he smelled bad. Jack struggled to take off the biker's jacket. He was amazed at how heavy it was. It must have weighed 10 pounds and had extra padding on the elbows. The vest underneath was a passport of this guy's life, with pins and patches showing different motorcycle events he was at. Four Corners, 1994, Sturgis, 1999, and a pin from last year's showing POW MIA Ride, 2001. There were many others, but they were covered in mud and hard to read. He closely inspected the biker's back and found no bullet wounds. He looked down at the biker's leg and he untied the rag he had applied back at the dump road. It had stopped the bleeding. Upon closer look, he saw an entrance and an exit wound, indicating the bullet went straight through. He fetched some gauze and hydrogen peroxide from the medicine cabinet. He tried to push the guy's pants up to get to the wound, but the combination of the pants being so tight and the leg being so big forced him into a decision. I could take his pants off. No, I can't do that. If he regained consciousness at that moment, it wouldn't be funny at all. He reached for a flowered pencil holder at the nearby desk and pulled out the scissors. He cut the pant leg up to the knee, washed the leg with a towel, and applied the hydrogen peroxide to the wounded area as it bubbled up. The injury was insignificant, not hitting any muscle or bone, a lucky flesh wound. He cleaned the bloody leg, applied some Vaseline to the wounds, and wrapped it with gauze. The biker never flinched. The bump on the biker's head was the size of a small egg, and after a few gentle wipes of the rag, it was clean, except for a very small cut that was no longer bleeding. He glanced over at the biker's black canvas bag with orange trim. It had a zippered top and a rope-like braided handle. One side of the bag showed a kangaroo wearing sunglasses, riding a motorcycle. The kangaroo had tattoos and was wearing fingerless gloves. I wonder what's inside that overstuffed bag. Bricks of cocaine? Marijuana? Money? He had more important things to do right now. He had to clean up any evidence that could link him to the crime. He realized he could be hit with an accessory to murder charge. But could he? He didn't shoot anybody. The cop was obviously bad, involved in some kind of illegal activity, maybe involved in the drug business. Jack saw him kill one man, and he tried to murder this guy, now unconscious on his floor. And Jack was sure that he was going to be next in line, an innocent bystander. Jack worried. What could the police figure out? Would the facts bear out the truth of what really happened? Or would some hotshot create his own scenario of an imagined truth? Could they discover the missing passenger's existence from the crime scene? And if so, would they discern the possibility of a second car nearby? Me. The thunder was loud, snapping Jack back into reality. The The rain continued, and it reassured him that this storm was a good thing to separate him from the scene of the crime, as it would wash away any clue that remained. He cleaned up his car, wiping the mud and blood from the back seat and door jamb where he had dragged the biker in. He picked up the biker's gun from the car floor and examined it. It was made with a higher quality than his gun. Pearl handle, well balanced. This gun had seen a lot of action, he thought. He put the rags into a garbage bag, along with the tourniquet that was applied to the wound. He added the plastic for sale sign and made plans to burn the evidence. What about my clothes? No, there's no gunshot residue or anything that could tie me to the scene, except maybe the mud on my shoes. This mud could be traced to the crime scene mud. He had seen this on TV too many times. He added his muddy shoes to the bag. He saw a streak of blood on his front pant leg, apparently obtained when he jammed the biker into the back seat. He took off his pants and added them to the bag. He revisited the back seat of the car with bleach and a rag and wiped the area over and over again. He was now certain there were no clues to connect him to anything. Back in the house, he stared at the bump on the biker's head, who remained unconscious on the blanket. It was apparently from the fall, or was it from him hitting the biker with the car door? Or both. Maybe he had a concussion. He couldn't take him to the hospital, that's for sure. He didn't know any doctors he could call and trust, or a friend who was a nurse. He had to write it out. Oh my God, suppose he dies! He now added a new scenario to this ever-changing event. Then he would have to get rid of the body. Oh no, what am I doing? His heart raced again, this time from fear. He started to think of how and when to get rid of the body. The biker moaned as his head rolled to the side. His eyes opened slowly and he stared at Jack. He had a puzzled look on his face as he looked around the room, trying to understand where he was. Jack approached and knelt next to him. You're going to be all right. We're at my house. The biker's head sprang up. He winced in pain and brought his hand to the bump on his head. One thing was certain. Jack wasn't going to mention that he hit him in the head with the car door. Where's Billy? The biker asked as he strained to look around the room again. Jack revealed, If Billy was the driver, I think he's dead. The cop shot him. Where's the bag? He asked as he continued to survey the area. Right over here. Don't worry. I didn't look in there, he assured him. The biker's expression suddenly changed as he looked at Jack. Where's your fucking pants? Jack looked down at his bare legs and then back at the biker in embarrassment and replied, I took them off because they have your blood on them. I'm burning all the evidence that ties me to the scene of the crime. Ow, my head. He continued to feel the bump on his head. Who the fuck are you anyway? I'm Jack Rigby. I saw the whole thing from below. Don't you remember running from the cop, falling down the hill after he shot you? I dragged you into the back seat of my car and brought you here to my house. I took care of your leg. The biker slowly raised his head, his face wincing in pain. He looked down at the bandaged leg. Jack reached up to the nearby table for the first aid kit. Here! Jack extended his hand. Take these, they're aspirin. He slapped Jack's hand away, and the pills bounced along the floor to a nearby wall. Where's my jacket? He demanded angrily. Jack reached for the jacket, and the weight of it astounded him again as he handed it to the biker. The biker sat up and propped himself against the brown fabric couch. So tell me again, what happened? And don't leave nothing out. Anything, Jack replied. What? Don't leave anything out, Jack corrected him. That's what I said, the biker countered back. Jack shook his head and continued. I was parked on the road down below the one that you were on. What were you doing there? The biker continued to quiz him, sinking the facts. Jack froze, unable to tell the truth. He stumbled for words. I was looking for, my car had trouble, yeah, and I pulled over to check it out. What was wrong? Well, it was sputtering, yeah, so I pulled over. Bullshit. Why were you on that dead-end road? The biker asked. Jack reached a point of frustration and uttered, Look, I pulled off the main road because of car troubles. What the fuck does it matter? It was the first time he had used that word since he was a kid. The biker looked puzzled and replied, "Whatever. Then what?" "Then I saw the cop shoot the driver," Jack recalled. "You mean Billy?" "Yeah, I guess. I don't know anybody's name." Jack started to ramble, trying to avoid telling him about the car door hitting his head. Then you ran out of the car, and the cop shot you, and you stumbled and hit your head as you fell down the hill towards me. I saw your head hit a rock. It was gray, and it stood up out of the ground, and your head hit it straight on and gave you that bump on your head." "Enough about the damn rock." He brought his hand to the bump on his head. "Then what happened?" "Then the cop came to the side of the road, aimed his gun at me, and—" "He saw you?" the biker interrupted. "Yes, but that's when Billy must have crawled over and shot him with his last breath, and the cop must have shot him back at almost the same time." "Did you check to see if they were still alive?" "No, I figured they were dead, but I knew you were still alive, so I dragged you into the car and drove you here." "So Billy could still be alive?" The biker grabbed his cell phone from his jacket and made a call. "Big Tony, it's me, Wheels. Pesto went postal. He hit me and Billy. I'll be okay, but I don't know about Billy. He stopped by without a warning and said let's go for a ride. If I knew he was meeting Pesto, I never would have gone. Listen, I want you to check it out. It's about a half-mile west of I-25 on Aspen Lane. Yeah, by the dump road. Bring the binoculars. Scout it out from a distance at first. Be careful. Pesto might still be alive. Call me back when you find something out." Now Jack knew his name was Wheels, and his concern for his gang was like a father for his family. "How long before we hear from Tony?" Jack inquired. "That's Big Tony," Wheels corrected him, and then he made another call. "Yogi, Pesto ambushed Billy and me. Yeah, I'm okay, but I think Billy took it. Not sure. I need you to check the system for a full rundown. Aspen Lane, shots fired, anything related, and see if I'm listed and if Billy's name comes up. I want a response in 10 minutes. Bye." Jack saw Wheels thinking. It was a look familiar to him, as he often went into his own world, contemplating options, alternatives, and running them out to possible endings. He went into the bedroom and put on some pants. He looked at the picture of him and Emily on one of their camping vacations. He smiled, shrugged his shoulders, and said to her, "I guess you're just going to have to wait." Wheels' phone rang. "Yeah? Shit. Uh-huh. Good work. I'll spend the night here. No, I'm at a safe house. Keep scanning, Yogi. I'll call you tomorrow." He brought Wheels an ice pack for his head, a small bottle of Gatorade, and some pills. "What the fuck is this?" "Gatorade." "Not that. This." Wheels pointed to the pills. "Those are aspirin, and I tried to give you them before. Your head must be pounding. You probably have a concussion. And this is a multivitamin. It'll help your bullet wound, and your body needs nutrition right now. Put this ice bag on your head. We need to get the swelling down." Wheels responded sarcastically. "Gee, thanks, Doc." Now, for the first time, he felt like Wheels had crossed the line of suspicion and accepted him as someone who could be trusted. Jack smiled comfortably, and any tension that had existed seemed to disappear. Wheels' phone rang again. "Yeah?" Wheels listened intently and then responded. "Yogi says they're both dead. I'm safe. I'll spend the night here and call you in the morning. Don't worry. Yogi's working on it. Remember, no house phones. Only use the Y-phones. Yeah, I'll call her. Thanks, Big Tony." Wheels looked at Jack. "He worries too much, but he's the best. Now beat it. I have to make another phone call." Jack looked startled and left the room. He had listened in on phone calls about a murder he was involved in, and now he couldn't listen in on this call? Why not? Maybe it was a call to the her he mentioned, Billy's wife? Jack was getting hungry, and he opened the fridge to scout out the possibilities. There were a few choices left, because, as he had planned his suicide for days, the food shopping became a non-existent chore. It was as if the reduction of food remaining in the house helped signal the countdown to his death. He could hear some of the conversation from the other room. Wheels had changed his tone as if he became another person, a normal person, kind, reassuring. He heard him say, "I'll be fine. Disguised like a nurse. See you tomorrow." Of what Jack could hear, the conversation was too ordinary. He guessed it was somebody's wife. He returned to the living room to see Wheels reading something. It was his suicide note. In the excitement of coming home, he forgot about the note he left behind. Jack froze in his tracks, thinking it would interrupt Wheels' reading, but it didn't. Jack stood there, only a few feet in front of the stranger, who was reading all the reasoning of why he would take his life on this day. His note was specific in every point. His loneliness since his wife's death, the jerk boss at work, the IRS agent that tortured him every year, the kid next door whose friends enjoyed kicking down his fence, the unknown newspaper stealer, and even the dogs who decorated his lawn. He now regretted the note. Watching someone else read it seemed as if it was an invasion of his privacy. He left it for anybody who cared, not a stranger. He always read in the newspaper that a suicide note was left behind. But now, for the first time, he realized they never reported what was in those final goodbyes, and he never gave any consideration as to who would read his note. He always assumed that only family and the cops would see it. He never contemplated a stranger reading about his pitiful life. Jack was embarrassed and angry as he watched Wheels reading the 3-page send-off he had written. "Give me that," Jack demanded with his hand extended, but Wheels didn't even acknowledge him. Jack stood frozen, almost as if he was a little boy who had been caught doing something wrong and was about to be yelled at. He stood there waiting for him to finish, not knowing what he would hear. What would this biker have to say about his life, his weaknesses, his pathetic existence? When Wheels was done, he folded up the paper, and Jack reached for it again, but Wheels put it in his pocket. Jack's face turned to a look of confusion. Why is he keeping it? Why won't he say something? Wheels looked at Jack. "I'm hungry. What do you have to eat?" "Well, there's not much in the fridge. I can go pick up a pizza or something." "No, I want real food." Wheels picked up his cell phone and hit another speed dial number. "Milo, it's Wheels. How's business?" "That's great. How about that beautiful wife of yours? Tell her I said hi." "Hey, I got some good news. It's all done. The Grizzly Rose is booked and they agreed for you to cater the event. Still working on the band though. This should be the last event to put us over the top. It's a great thing. We're all proud to be part of it. Listen, can you do me a favor? I'd like 2 Milo specials and a couple of 6-packs delivered to, He looked at Jack for help. Jack replied, 1374. "That's 1374, Wheels said, then paused, waiting for the rest from Jack. "Monarch Circle," he finished. "Monarch Circle. Thanks, Milo." As they waited for the dinner to be delivered, Wheels grilled Jack on his troubles. And at the end of each problem, Wheels would say things like, "So, why don't you just punch his face in?" Or, "Catch the bastards and turn it around on them." It wasn't Dear Abby advice, and every answer was based on violence or revenge, which he could never stoop low enough to reach. Since his wife died, each incident pushed him deeper into depression. The problems piled on top of each other until one day, when it was all too much, he just gave up and wanted to end it all. Wheels kept shaking his head as he listened to Jack's pitiful excuses. These were such nitpicky problems that seemed so ridiculous that it made Wheels finally get angry, and he shouted, "Shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear anymore. If you can't stand up for yourself and fight for what's yours, then how can you live with yourself?" Jack started to laugh, and then Wheels laughed, realizing that's exactly what it had come to. Wheels looked over at the desk and told him to bring the pencil holder. Wheels slowly stood up and limped to the dining room table a few feet away and sat down. He pulled out a big black Sharpie marker from the pencil holder and pushed everything on the table out of the way. Unopened mail, a magazine, and a vase holding fake flowers were shoved to the edge. Wheels took the marker and drew a line about 3 feet across the top of the shiny oak table. Jack stepped forward and shouted, "Hey, what are you doing?" Wheels stuck his arm out, pushed him aside.
What the fuck do you care? You're dead. Remember? You killed yourself today. Now sit down.
Jack fell shamefully into the chair, as if a magnet had pulled him down. He could sense the intensity of what Wheels was doing, and he knew there was some purpose beyond the strange graffiti. Wheels continued with his drawing, pointing to the left of the line, drawing and circling the letter B.
This is when you're born,
he started, and he moved his hand to the right of the line, circling the letter D.
And this is when you die. This line can represent 1 day or 100 years. Nobody knows the length until it's over. That's the fun part about life. You just never know.
He divided the long line in half and wrote the number 40.
This is when you reach 40, considered to be the halfway point if you live to 80.
He divided the line between the B and the 40-year mark and wrote the number 20.
From here, and you're born until you reach 20. That's being a kid, having fun. But this time, between 20 and 40, your life as a kid turns into a new era. You start making decisions for yourself that change the rest of your life. Where you want to be, your first serious job. You pick out your wife, have kids, get them through school.
He moved his hand to the other side of the line and divided the space between the 40-year mark and the end and wrote the number 60.
This time here,
he motioned, circling the 60 to the end mark,
is your regret time. You regret never going to Hawaii, not going to the Indy 500, not going to Vegas and putting a $100 bill on black to see what happens, not having the sports car or the Harley you always wanted.
He was starting to understand what Wheels was preaching.
Here,
Wheels continued, pointing to the time between 40 and the 60.
This time is for you. You've raised your kids, maybe paid off the house, and you do things in life that you always dreamed of but never did. You pull out your list of 50 and start marking them off, one by one.
Jack was confused. List of 50? Wheels raised his voice.
The 50 things you have to do before you die. Wait a minute, are you saying you don't have a list?
Well, no, I don't, Wheels demanded.
Get a piece of paper and a pen, and let's make a list right now.
They worked on the list, only to be interrupted with the dinner delivery from Milo's. The beer made the night go faster as they created a list of 31 things that Jack wanted to do before he died. End Chapter 2.